Okay, so welcome everyone to another Play and Learn series for Tomo Club. Today we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Lisa Tobben. She's a special education mentor and instructional coach for last 20 years, I think, and I think maybe more than that at Troy R3 School District. And it's such a pleasure to have you here today, Lisa, on the conversation.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here too.
Yeah. We have chosen a very unique topic, I would say, which sometimes do get unaddressed is how do we engage all the students? I think when we talk about so many edtech products out there or so many curriculums or different pedagogies, I think it really tries to favor the one who are very self-motivated kids, rather
Mhm.
than keeping an account of everyone. So I think discussing this topic of what can be the effective strategies for involvement and accessibility, I think it's the need of the hour. And I'm glad we could do this today.
Yeah. So do you want me to give you a little bit of my background? Because I feel like my story is kind of unique, just with teaching in general. So, my first 2 years, currently in year 21 of public education, all special education. So if you ask me something from the regular education world, um, I can answer from a special ed perspective and not a regular education educator perspective. But I've been in my school district now for 18 years. My first 2 years were in a neighboring school district, and I had a self-contained classroom. And so then I moved to the school district, and I have taught elementary in the school district. And then I went to the middle school, and then I finished out my classroom years in the high school. So what's super unique about this, and I feel like I'm very, very blessed to have these experiences, that some of the students that I had in elementary school, I had again in middle school, and then when I moved up to high school, I had some of them their senior year, and then just throughout high school. But when I transferred to the high school, I taught primarily seniors, and some of them I had in elementary school and middle school, and they were just like, "Really?" Again, I was like, "Yeah, I'm just following you guys." But what's super cool is I got to see them walk across the stage at graduation. And for some of our students, like that's their mountain that they never thought that they would be able to reach the peak of. And they did. And teaching in the community that I work in, I get to see past students out in the community working. Like I had a student change the oil in my car the other day at the Valvoline. When I go to Walmart, like I have a whole cohort of students that work at Walmart, so I get to see them when I go to Walmart, which is super cool. Like I feel like I get to see the full circle and all of the hard work that teachers put into their students. Like I get to see it in action. And I don't feel like there's a lot of teachers that get to see what their hard work has done to really impact the life of another human.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're very uniquely positioned there because you could also kind of grow with them. And it's very rare because I think a lot of times we see the special ed requirements of a elementary, middle, and high are so unique, so different by the virtue of new experiences that they're having. So, and this has happened because we work across the board again with different grade levels, and that's so true. And I'm glad you could do this, right?
Yeah. So another cool story, one of the students that I had my first 2 years of teaching, actually his family ended up moving to the school district I'm in now. And this was like a self-contained classroom. And this is at that time, it was a self-contained classroom. And, seeing him now, like he works in our school system as a paraprofessional. He
Oh, wow.
has bachelor's degree. He's currently working on his master's degree. He is a coach, assistant coach for the football team, and not like we can't put limitations on our students. Like, when you see them in kindergarten and you're teaching them language skills, and to be able to see everything that he's accomplished now, like we can't, I guess, put the definition of success on our students. Like that has to come from them.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So walk us through, like, for anyone who's listening to this podcast today, what a regular day for a special ed teacher looks like, or a coach looks like.
What does a day of a special
Yeah.
education is? Yeah. So, well, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. But I think, the biggest thing is really getting to learn your students and their families. So, for me, I was very blessed to be able to work with families throughout like the same families throughout most of my teaching, my in-classroom career. And just building that partnership on how to really build on the strengths of each student. So, I think that's one of the beautiful things about special education is we have the autonomy to do what to give. And I'm not saying like regular ed doesn't, but like our timeline goes at the pace of our students. So we can meet them where they're at and move at their pace and really learn our students because our class sizes are a little bit smaller
Hmm.
normally, to really hone in on their strengths to, really use those strengths in school. So I think, like as a special education teacher, a lot of times we work with a population that like, oh, our job's to sell school to people that don't want to buy school. Um,
Wow.
so you really have to get like crafty and really learn your students and their strengths. So one of my absolute favorite years, and probably I don't want to say the best year, but because I learned a lot each year.
Right.
But my absolute favorite year was my second year at the high school, and we started a school business. So it was absolutely amazing. So my classroom at that time was called transition studies. So what it essentially was just exploring all of our options, post-secondary options, and teaching like those soft skills that
Hmm.
you need for to be successful post-secondary. So I went to a conference and got this idea to start the school business. And so I brought the idea back to my students and they just like took off with it. So they created a business. They had different departments within the company, so they had to create jobs along with like the name of the company. They had jobs, they had departments. So like if you had a student that maybe they didn't they like their strength was maybe like they liked YouTube and editing videos, they were in charge of like editing commercials and stuff like that we would post out. They created a podcast which was super cool. So and then we had like a graphic design team and then our finance department. So you have all of these skills
Hmm.
that build on the student's strength. So, we had a manager. So I hired the manager and then the manager was the one that was doing like the interviews and stuff
Nice.
like that. Like I just kind of coached them through that. But what was super cool is you could teach skills in real life, like real job skills and how to work with people as it was going on. And, just that ability to learn the students and hone in on their strengths,
Hmm.
it was amazing. Like I had kids that like our school starts at like 7 a.m. So, like first block, that's an easy one not to come to if you're tired and school's not really your thing anyway. But I had a student that was like notorious for skipping school, but on our coffee cart day or when he had a job to do, he was there like early,
Nice.
to his job. So, it gave them a sense of purpose as well. Like if
Mm.
they didn't show up, then, like people were counting on them to show up.
Right.
So it was really cool.
No, that really sounds amazing because it's like a simulation, which is very similar to what we do. But
Yeah.
but I would like to know, so how are these students selected to be in your session? Like, do you take sessions for every child in the school, or how are these kids selected in the first place?
For my class or just
Yeah.
for like my class? Well, my class was an elective class,
Okay.
so they did have to have an IEP since I'm a special education teacher,
Hmm.
and it started off as just like a junior senior class, and then it moved to like a junior senior sophomore class because uh, our school does sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Okay.
We have a separate building for freshmen. Um, so they were basically
Sorry, Abby.
uh no, yeah, they had to have an IEP, and it was an elective class, and so it was an IEP team decision, just kind of based off of maybe their post-secondary goals, or and just some skills that maybe they needed to work on a little bit. So
Okay.
that's how.
So basically, for the students who are recommended IEPs, they have a set of electives to choose from to, I think, complete the credits or something like that, right?
Yeah, yes.
Got it, got it. Okay, now coming to the today's topic as well, I would love to understand from your year of experience, like, do you have a universal design of education that you would want that would address accessibility for all?
So I guess a universal design, if in a
Please
perfect.
listen up for today's
Oh goodness,
announcement.
I'm sorry.
You know,
Hold
That's
on.
fine.
still to the next level.
Sorry, announcements.
That's okay.
Totally forgot about that.
Mhm.
Um, so universal design. So I think in a perfect world, like all students are invested in their learning. So,
Mhm.
if you can be really creative and come up with a way to give really students control, like here's our goal, here's our end goal, how are we going to get there? Or, giving them the autonomy to figure out, like to create their own learning path to get to the goal.
Mhm.
Because learns different and at different speeds and all of that. Um, so I think that's like the key. Like if you can come up with some kind of project-based learning
Mhm.
um for your curriculum, like that's the key. I feel like mine was kind of easy because I mean, not easy because it took a lot of planning, and
Yes.
there were times when we got started where I was like, I don't even know what I got myself into. You
Mm.
because it was just like one thing led to another and then another idea. And, I mean, the kids were so excited.
Mm.
Um, but I think that's the key is to, if the kids are invested in what they're doing and they have a say in their learning, it kind of like takes care of itself,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think project-based learning is definitely one place where you can put all your skills in practice in real time, which I love. Um, Now, I forgot one question that I want to ask before was while working with elementary, middle, and high, which one
Uh-huh.
was most challenging and which one was the most rewarding?
Oh man, I don't like people ask me what my favorite is, and I can't really say that I have a
I
favorite.
didn't say favorite. I didn't say favorite. I said challenging
Yeah,
and rewarding.
most challenging. I think elementary is the most challenging.
Right.
Um, just because I like when kids get older, they have the ability to really tell you what's going on, like what's bothering them, to express themselves. In elementary, they don't have those skills yet. So,
Right.
you might have an angry kid come in because they're hungry, so it's you have all of that problem solving that you have to do instead of a student that can just tell you, hey, like last night was rough, I just need a few minutes before I start my day.
Right.
The smaller kids, the younger kids, they don't have that. I would say the most rewarding um is really now just really being able to see students that knowing how hard school was and seeing them holding jobs out in the community. Yes, I this weekend I was in Walmart, and I had a student that works there stop me and say, hey, I think I went to go to college, but I don't know how to do all of the steps to get in. Is there any way you can help me? Well, yeah, like yes, like let's make this dream come true. So, that's I think the most rewarding part is just seeing all of the hard work in play.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think we also have kind of similar experience that with high school
Mhm.
kids, they might have their, guards up. So it's equally difficult to get them talking. But by the right methods, they will still come up. But the
Yeah.
young kids, sadly, like they don't have the ability to articulate sometimes. I know what they're going through, and but yeah, I totally get it, and I'm glad you're doing such a fantastic job in getting these kids to go to college and plan that out because they need mentors, and so yeah, I think that's a valid point. But now coming to the previous part, the project-based learning.
Mhm.
I see that sometimes not everyone is equally engaged, right? Because in a group, there's always one who is the who organically becomes the leader, and then there's some teammates who are just dragging along. So how do you like? Do you have any strategies, especially in these kind of cases, which has proven effective for engaging students with diverse needs? Whether it's in these kind of group-based activities or whether it's the classroom activities, to get them all engaged actively.
I think that's just really honing in on their strengths because like a lot of our kids and I don't even really want to say a lot, but there are some kids that are so used to hearing about their weaknesses that once you can build them up and show them what they're really good at, usually you can get them engaged in something. It might not look exactly what people think it's supposed to look like,
Hmm.
but it works for that student. And that kind of goes back to the project-based learning activity or the business that we had that my students ran. Not everybody wanted to be on the front line selling
Yeah.
coffee, and that was okay. But we had some students that were really talented with art.
Yeah.
So, then they would collaborate on a graphic design or something like that. Or we would give all of the students that wanted to that were good at art. Like, I guess too, it comes down to really building. Oh my goodness.
It's all right.
I'm so sorry. Usually the phone doesn't like do this that much.
All right. Yeah.
Um, like building that classroom community and making it a safe learning environment for your students. Like that's one thing that I worked really hard on as well as letting that was the ground and rule or expectation for my classroom was our job as humans is to build each other up.
Right.
Like we never trash anybody. We don't trash talk. It's to build each other up. So then, students feel they feel more safe taking those risks and showing their talents or whatever. We did a lot of like voting type stuff too,
Okay.
where, everything was very collaborative, even like throughout the different blocks of classes. Like we used our online learning system to collaborate the classes, so
Hmm.
everybody had a voice and choice in the direction that the company was going. um so I think like that's the big thing is really trying to figure out what the strengths are of that student, and I would also tell them like sometimes we have to do things that we might not always enjoy doing
Hmm.
to get to the stuff that we enjoy doing. Like you have to do that groundwork first, and just really building on those skills. I mean, every job has things that we don't always enjoy doing, but we have to do those things to get to the fun stuff.
No, you have like given a lot of strategies in a very short time. So if I summarize, you said, of course, meeting them at the place where they're
Mhm.
organically or inherently engaged, from their strength point of view, that can get everyone excited to do
Mhm.
participate. Safe space, no trash talking, online sessions where everyone has a say and they have to be actively involved. Love it. I think those are some very valid strategies which people can incorporate. And I would like to plug in a little bit about Tomo Club here as well, what we do. I think when we were designing a curriculum, so basically we have this game-based curriculum for social emotional learning. And what we realized was even these sessions inherently becomes very redundant. It's the same stuff. Like, I get it. I need to be self-aware. I need to be emotionally
Mhm.
myself, or I need to be empathetic, but then the students were like, not everyone was equally involved, and we realized that you can create, so there's no need of a product for motivated kids. There is YouTube out there. If somebody really wants to hone their skills, there is multiple sources for free out there. It's all about how you bring together kids who are not interested or who are not inherently motivated. So we came up with games as a solution, and that was like it, because everyone has to move their hands, has to move the cursor, has to do something in the game, because it's a
Mhm.
multiplayer game setup. And I think that was one of the key ways we ensured that everybody was engaged and taking away the learnings home and not just passively consuming it. So, but I think
Mhm.
it's a quite of similarity I saw in what you explained versus
Mhm.
Reed in terms of engagement. Love it.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about your Tomo Club too, is that it's teamwork to to create whatever ecosystem or to win the game. Like it's not a one person can do it by themselves. Like it's a team, and that's how my classroom ran too, was like we couldn't reach this goal with one person doing all of the work and everybody else just vegging out on TikTok. So, and once they saw that, that's when one, it gave them purpose as well, and like it was just really cool. And
No,
I think
absolutely.
that's too is giving kids the opportunity to see that what they do is valued and it matters
Right.
to like the greater picture.
No, absolutely. And that is the fastest gratification we have seen, where you see the impact of your actions. Um, okay, I want to turn this discussion around the parents and their caregivers' involvement, especially in the accessibility part, where
Mhm.
there has to be a lot of concerns, there has to be a lot of ideas, a lot of contribution coming from the parental or caregiver ends as well. So how do
Mhm.
you take that? Like how can teachers effectively collaborate with caregivers?
Um, make the phone call home. Like, don't be scared to make the phone call home. Emails are great, but making those phone calls home, and one thing, like, because I work primarily right now with first and second year teachers, and that is one thing that I really stress with them is make a point to make not just a phone call home, but a positive phone call home. Because so often our parents and caregivers they're so used to getting negative phone calls home, and I always tell them, when you make that first positive phone call, be sure that you have Kleenexes nearby, because the person on the other end is probably going to start crying, and then you're going to start crying too, because you're telling them how great it is to have their student in your classroom, or you noticed them doing this today that was absolutely amazing, and you just wanted to share the good news. So I think that's the number one key to building that partnership is to make the phone call home, and actively engage the caregiver,
Mhm.
and like, even once you build that positive relationship, when things come up, it makes it just easier to talk to them and be like, hey, I've been noticing this going on in class. Is there something that I need to know about? Do you have any suggestions on things that we can do here at school to ensure the student has success with this? Like wording things, and just really, that's the best way to build that partnership, because being a teacher, it's not like the caregivers usually know that student better than because they've known them most of their lives, and the same way with students, like bringing them in, no matter how young they are, like they know how they learn best, and I think that's part of our job as teachers too, is to help them recognize how they learn best, so then and teaching them the skills to articulate that to their teachers, because when they get into the work environment, or if they do go off to college or university or tech school, that they can say, hey, I work best when these things are in place, or
Right.
I need this so I can complete the task to my best ability.
No, but I have to say that for school teachers, it's so difficult also, because they have to do these calls after school, and like it's not at all like a 9 to 5 job. Like it ends up being more than that, or I would say sometimes 24/7 job, which is which is like sometimes not even recognized to that degree, which it should be. But I empathize, if some teachers say that I don't have the time to give a call, I empathize with that completely. And
Mhm.
So when we were doing like when we were collaborating with a lot of schools and a lot of teachers, they were like, we love what you do, but how can we get parents involved? So we came up with an idea. We started doing these kind of worksheets, which had
Mhm.
literally two YouTube links and one game link, which if the students and parents want to do at home, they will get an idea
Mhm.
of what's happening in the class. So those YouTube videos were kind of in
Yes.
extension to what was happening in the class. So it was like sending that even as like a text to those parents that, hey, if you want to keep on like engaging more with your kids or what's happening in the school, just follow this link and you will come closer. So it's like a 10-minute job versus 3 hours of conversation. So always works.
And that is really helpful for our nonverbal students too.
Yep.
So, was it last year or the year before? I worked with a teacher and we created like an Apple keynote that he made into like an iMovie, and then we put it on YouTube, a private YouTube link, so he could send it to the parent or caregiver, so they could see what their student was doing in school, because the student didn't, wasn't able to go home and say, hey, I made this really cool art project, or, I sat next to my best friend and, we played with shaving cream, made our letters with shaving cream or whatever. So yeah, that's super cool.
No, absolutely. I'm coming to my last important question that I want to address is about the role of technology, especially
Mhm.
from the accessibility point of view or engagement point of view with kids of different needs, with kids of neurodiversity. So, how has technology being a part of your journey over the last 20 years? Because you have seen, uh,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure, like back in 2020, 2001 or 2002, there were definitely not one-to-one devices with the kids at that time, right? And
Right.
you have seen that growth over the last 20 years. So, how has been
It,
your experience with technology part?
It's absolutely amazing to be a part of and to be able to see how technology can really make an environment so accessible for everyone. So our district is a one-to-one iPad district, which
Okay.
is really cool. So Apple is always throwing out new accessibility features, and it's cool to be able to see what's coming up. Just with the text to speech, and uh that's game changer for a lot of our students, and not just with students with like maybe learning disabilities, but for all types of learners. That's a cool one. The text to speech, that one's fantastic. I was in a fourth grade classroom a few weeks ago, and this student was trying to type something for science. And so he speaks into his iPad and he goes, hey, Siri, spell species. And he's like whispering in, and his iPad goes, species. And he's like trying to make it go quiet. So, it's really cool to even see like younger kids utilize all of those features that are in our iPads. Reminders for students to
Mhm.
help them stay organized, and even just the accessibility features that make the screens not so I guess noisy with all of the
Yeah.
flashing, takes the ads away, all of those things. Our students with hearing impairments, just to be able to have that accessibility to lectures,
Mm.
or like if the teacher is writing on the board or moving around the classroom, they can use that feature to hook to their hearing devices to be able to access what's going on. Our students with auditory processing issues, ADHD, like just what the iPads and iPhones, well, any device
Right.
just really enhances the learning environment for those students.
No, absolutely. I think I have seen so many uh, new challenges with technology and new opportunities with technology in the last 5 years itself, working with schools, that I think I only see some things completely changing altogether. The way of teaching, the way of assessments, the way of
Yes.
tutoring, the
Uh-huh.
24/7 support. I think sometimes we see students are literally learning at such a rapid pace because they
Mhm.
go into this rabbit hole if they like something, and uh, they come out with some beautiful ideas, and
Mhm.
so they have this kind of a companion all the time. uh,
Mhm.
I think it's a great thing that technology is doing. So, of course, if used right.
Yes, and even I know AI is sometimes a touchy topic for educators, but if we can teach students and really teachers how to use it to our advantage, to make things not necessarily easier, but to just enhance what we're already doing, like that's pretty cool. Like that's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, any ending remarks on this topic of engagement and accessibility for all kids?
Um, one thing that I think sometimes is overlooked is the power of visuals in classrooms. I was scrolling social media and I saw this post and it was just absolutely brilliant. This teacher was talking about, making accommodations for kids and, how sometimes that can be overwhelming. Well, she made this comment on how if we make accessibility for our highest need student the baseline for our classroom, everybody benefits.
Oh yeah,
So, like I was like, that's absolutely genius. Nobody's going to be hurt by an extra visual up in the classroom, but somebody is going to miss out if that visual is not there, and I was like, that's really impactful. Just flipping your lens to that aspect.
no, absolutely. I think it's more about like, for example, in our case, when we work with students,
Huh?
we actually never ask the school or the teachers about their IEPs or about their
Mhm.
neurodiversity. We don't even bother. We like our eligibility is that they should have hand-eye coordination and they should be able to use a device. That's it.
Yep.
Because why would we need to ask? Let them, because we have to design our product, we have to train our teachers so that even the kids with, I would say, extreme problems should be able to do it. The other kids
Mhm.
will have to learn to work with them anyways, right? And same the other way around. So
Mhm.
when we actually host this game sessions, we don't ask anything, we just play. Of course,
Mhm.
having a little bit understanding that, some kids have, they don't like if the teammates are too noisy or they go in a shell or they get a little anxious. Having this data always helps for the,
Mhm.
moderator to manage it well. But even if they don't, they are capable enough to handle those sessions.
Yep.
So that is like about capacity building at your product end and you at your service end.
Mhm.
Rather than making a one fit for all, make the fit for everyone.
Yes. Yes. I think another cool thing too, and is to think like, same opportunities, different abilities. And everybody has strengths to build on. We all have different abilities that add to wherever we're at and whatever we're doing.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much for this quick, fiery discussion. I think there are very strong takeaways for anybody who will consume this content. And now I'll just pause and just give me a second.